How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Reseller Island podcast. My name is Jake. Got my co-host here. Oh, I pointed the right way the first time. Sunny Las Vegas. We just wanted to welcome you guys to the island. Here we talk about everything reselling and just try to be co-workers and community members with you guys as we try this crazy thing called reselling on eBay and Amazon and Mercari. Today we wanted to talk about just some how personal things can affect your business. And we kind of want to just talk about our own business practices and personalities about how to balance work and life, how you should prioritize what's going on, and when you should go all in on the business and when to kind of step back in those things. So, Sonny, what first comes to mind when we talk about that?
Well, prioritizing used to be for me. So when I first started part time, prioritizing for me was thrifting, listing the crap out of everything that I got, and then just going to work. And that was within a matter of like 30 minutes of thrifting. As soon as Goodwill opened, getting 15 minutes down the road to work at the Wynn Casino. And then that was even a process because those underground tunnels are like about a mile if your point A to B to the office is like, okay, well, thanks for signing in, but I need you on the other side of the property and you need to get clock in over there. So by the time I got off of work, I was already tired. And then I'm like, okay, during lunch and restroom breaks that I would make up and call in, I was just trying to like draft anything that I could remember. And that was I had a better hustle working part-time than I have been here lately. So part-time was then, right? But now that I'm a full-time reseller, my priorities are like a different view because I was never really seeing what my wife was doing at home that was being upkept. So now that I like to say I'm a full time stay at home husband,
Uh-huh.
not just a reseller, and make people laugh because it's like a proud trophy to carry around. But man, there is so much work. So now it's like family home, and then reselling comes wherever it fits in, full time if possible.
Man, 2 minutes in, and my dog is aggressively ringing the doorbells to go out. Come on, Scout. But hey, this is kind of an example of prioritization. I'm not just going to
I
let
was
my
just gonna
dog.
say that.
I'm not going to let my dog suffer because I've got to get work done, right? Kind of leads into what we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, prioritization. You guys know me. It's a huge thing that I talk about a lot and I focus on. I've probably already shared this on the podcast, but talk about it a little more. I'm actually diagnosed with the good old ADHD, and my two major symptoms conflict with each other, which is the most annoying part of it. My first major symptom is I have hyperfixation. So once I want to do something or learn about something, it's really the only thing that I can focus on, sometimes to the detriment of my relationships and my sleep, even my food. Sometimes I just like forget to eat because I'm so focused in on something. But then my second major symptom is the inability to prioritize and get things done in an efficient manner. So while I'm hyperfixated on something, I'm able to just do that. But at the same time, I also have five or six other things that I need to get done, and I'm not able to prioritize those and get them done in an orderly fashion. And like I've talked about already, your productivity goes up 500% if you're able to just do A and then B and then C and then D. I still struggle with doing that, but as I focus more and more on that, I'm able to get more and more done, make more and more money, and have more and more time to watch the NBA draft, which was last night, and the Jazz absolutely killed it. And then they're going to do the second round tonight as well. And I want to have time to be able to do those things that I super enjoy. I want to be able to have time to hang out with my wife. I want to be able to have time to just do all the things that humans should do.
I, the priority is that go at the end of having those moments to say, hey, I've worked for this or worked this out to get here, even if it's just for like an hour or two to watch the NBA draft or have some time for yourself. So yeah, priority for me is changing better. Before it used to be like a bad multitasker. I thought I was getting stuff done and I wasn't. I was, but I wasn't at the same time. But now that I'm learning and getting more organized, that I've been talking ongoingly about, like there's all these little things that I see me being much better and productive as, now that I'm much more organized to sit down and knock some things out. And you had said before it takes like 3 hours and you could knock out so much. I'm seeing that 3 hours amount down to like 30 minutes to an hour, because I
Yeah.
don't have these other things that are like just in my view and bothering me. And I'm like, I'm going to work on this. Although I'm working on this, I could get both of them done. But now that I am better now and realizing like my bad habits, I could knock out one thing completely at a time, and now look back every day, which I really like about now that I've changed. Like learning about me is like, and just getting better is like looking at the end of the day and saying, I've done this. Now I may not get as much sales as I want, but the priorities that I've taken care of is a huge pat on the back.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's dope. And like you were saying about, just blocking off time, getting things done in 3 hours or 30 minutes. One of the biggest hacks that I use is at least once per day, and I usually do it twice per day. I just do a 90-minute focus session where I only do one thing. And I tell my wife, hey, I'm just going to do another 90-minute. And so she knows not to bother me unless, of course, there's an emergency, because she's always the priority. But if I can just list for 90 minutes, a lot of people don't believe me, but I able to list a ton of items per hour. And so if I can just list for 90 minutes, sometimes I'll get 62 listings up, sometimes I'll get close to 90, sometimes it'll only be 45 or whatever. But if I like one thing that I fell victim to was just listing or drafting the exact same amount of items per day. And so what I would do is I'm gonna be like, okay, sweet, I'm just gonna sit down and I'm gonna list 20 items. And then what would happen is I would list 20 and then like stop and do something else. But what would happen is I would list seven and then I'd go to my phone and I'd count. But, okay, seven, 13 more. And I'd list like five or six more and I forgot how many I'd listed. So then I would go back and I would count, like, okay, I'm at 11. Okay, now let's just do nine more. And you're like wasting a ton of time. And then every time you pull your phone out, maybe you'll like click on something, especially because I own a few different businesses and everything's kind of related. While I'm checking how many items I've listed, oh, here comes an Instagram question DM, and oh, I have an answer for that. Let me answer that real quick. And now it's taking a lot more time. But if I just say, hey, I'm just going to let my wife know and everyone and all my business partners that need to know, hey, don't contact me for 90 minutes. And then I turn off all my notifications and I just list for 90 minutes. I make so much more money in those 90 minutes than I do in any other time during the day. So you guys should use 90-minute focus sessions.
Yeah.
They're really
I
good.
think the hard part is just not falling into your own bad habits. Speaking
Mm-hmm.
for myself, it's like I know I could do this and I should be doing it this way. And then now it's like I'm really using like my iPhone, which I forgot to take off the other day because I had like all these missed calls and text messages, but it was putting my iPhone on like a sleep or a focus mode where it's like it didn't pick up any calls or anything. So I wasn't distracted of a ding of TikTok or Instagram or a message on YouTube for me to just look at, knowing that I shouldn't be looking at it, but it's just one thing that helped me not be so distracted, because it easily goes into that way, which a lot of people talk about. Like if you're on TikTok, just being a viewer, soaking
Mm-hmm.
up content, you think you're there for 5 minutes and it's probably like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. And you're like, geez, I could have used this time to do this other stuff. Like, why am I doing this to myself? But it's just, that's the magic of being entertained with social media.
Now TikTok, Instagram, social media, they know what they're doing. Like I'm actually cognizant of it when I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, I've been on this too long. I'm gonna hop off. And I just like scroll down. I just like get sucked in for like 6 more seconds. And then I just watch like three more. And I'm like, no, I really need to get off. And then I just like get sucked in. And sometimes I'm able to just like be like, oh, I need to get off, and I get off. But that's not every time. And sometimes I'm able to get off 30 seconds after that thought, but sometimes it takes 4 minutes. Sometimes it takes 18 minutes. And 18 minutes, oh, that's actually a really long time.
It is.
And this happens the most right before bed. So right before I go to bed, I've never had this habit because I actually have hated social media my whole life until I became a social media influencer. And now it's part of my job.
It's
So it's a
ironic.
different relationship. So I get sucked in even more. But yeah, if you watch TikTok like right before bed, it's one of the most just unhealthy habits that a human can have. But I'd say 85% of the population or more has that habit of just scrolling on social media right before bed. So one hack that I'm doing right now is I have blue light blocking glasses, and I put those on, and then just watching TikTok, like I get tired, and so that's how I'm getting over that. Like, I just get tired and I fall asleep because of the blue light blocking glasses, which is
Yeah,
great.
that's one of the methods I use. Not with TikTok, but it was when I had trouble sleeping a couple of years ago, and I had to take meds for it, and then the meds were just worse. So I found
Mm-hmm.
watching like Discovery channels, like
Yep.
Animal Discovery Animal or something like that, because it's just a soothing, easy voice. There was no like animals eating each other. It was just a documentary. Like those were soothing to me and boring enough that they were entertaining to watch at least like 15 minutes, and I'll crash out and I'd wake up and I'll just turn off the TV. So I would use that to my benefit. But those are those coping mechanisms
Yeah.
that
That
people.
reminds me. That reminds me of yesterday when you called me and I was in Ross and someone like tried to steal something or tried to
Oh
open
yeah, the
something and the
siren.
sensor went off and you're like, oh, are those birds in the background? Like, no,
Well, I
it's
was
just
like,
the
that's a
the
weird bird, but I
yeah.
knew it wasn't a bird. But again, the way that I think is that if I don't speak my words out, then I won't be somewhat understood to be like it's getting somewhere to get to that answer. And
Uh-huh.
that's one thing I've learned about me. Prioritizing is vocalizing. Just spit it out, even if you don't know what you're saying, but it'll get you to where you're trying to go or understand. Yeah.
Talk about burnout, man.
Burnout.
Burnout. Talk about it.
Burnout could happen at any moment. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the best thing with burnout when it comes to reselling and listing or any obstacle that you got going on is if you know you're burnt out and you need to get done, just start moving towards it. Whether you're moving like a sloth or a turtle, it's better than sitting around moping, knowing that you need to do it. Just get to it. Like I tell people when they ask me when they run into me at thrift stores, like I want to resell, and I've been thinking about it for months or years, and I'm like, years, months, why is it taking that long? And I always tell them just start with one item, just list one item, don't think any more than that. Put a pile next to you, watch something on TV or your favorite podcast or your worst
Uh-huh.
podcast. Like just have some distraction that doesn't have you focused entirely on the project at hand. Just start with one and just let it keep rolling and create those good habits because we all build bad habits along the way with trying to figure out things. But then when you start working on like, I need to do this and I am not doing that, I think people get too fixated on both of those things, but yet they're just thinking, they're not
Yeah.
doing. So gradually just get in the movement of things.
Yep. I actually just released a video minutes before this podcast. And in so it'll be a few days. Actually, we're recording this on Tuesday. Or I mean Wednesday, earlier in the week than normal. You guys won't see this till Monday, so it'll be a video from like 5 or 6 days ago. But at the end of it, I talk about how we just like go too fast. How we want to, just do everything. We want $1 million yesterday. We don't want it in 6 months or 7 years. We want it freaking right now. And so we end up going way too fast, trying to learn way too many things or list way too many items, and it ends up crushing us, and then we lose. It leads to a lot of people either burning out, and that's honestly sometimes best case scenario when you try to do way too much at the beginning. Usually it leads to quitting, just straight up quitting, because you haven't seen too much money from it. It's too hard. eBay and Amazon suck, or the economy sucks, and we're just like, yeah, I'm just done. And so it's important to like you said, just gradually do things. And you were talking about burnout specifically, but I feel like it's just an overarching concept for business and for eBay reselling. I did just do it all gradual, man. Like do it nice and slow. Grow slower than you think you need to, and you'll actually be here 5 years later or 10 years later or whatever your goals are.
Yeah, it's just like it's like knowing you need to work out and get in shape,
Mm-hmm.
but not doing it. And then it's every time somebody just gets their one foot in the door, they kick themselves in the butt saying, why didn't I just step in the door before, a long time ago? And it's just those little things that make a huge difference And again, you create these good habits, and then you start finding a routine that works for you, or understand that my routine isn't like Jake's. So you can't, again, compare yourself like we talked about in the past. And I think some of the burnout is more of the comparison when it comes to
Mhm.
reselling content creators. Yeah, either they're one or the other or both, where they're comparing themselves like Jay rides over here and has all these businesses and making all this money, but I'm nowhere near that. Well, be happy with what you have and know
Mhm.
that you're a lot further than what you were yesterday, as long as you can keep working on you. Again, your goals are different. Nobody will never know what your goals are, and you should never compare, but you should look at people that are bigger than you and say, hey, there's room for growth, like I've
Mhm.
talked about in the past. But for me, burnout isn't as bad as it used to be. And I think that comes along with knowing that the things I can do today is only for today. Tomorrow's another day, hopefully, that we're blessed with, that I could continue to work on it. But there's more than just reselling that I look at for me that's important. And it comes along with prioritizing and not burning out, because life is important with family members and spending good quality self care time, whether it be with relatives, family, or friends, or just for yourself.
So burnout is something that affects people at any given time all
Yeah.
throughout the year. Some people like struggle with it like every single day for really long periods, but they just get over it. Some people just experience it for a day and they're back at it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Some people really experience it for a couple weeks or a couple months and then they just dive back in. And during the summer is usually when we see the most burnout. I'm actually noticing within the space, burnout is getting talked about a lot more. But what I like this year is like it's actually being talked about more in like a hey, this is just a reality, not like a super negative tonality. Like last year, I feel like during the summer, burnout was talked about, but it was much more like negative connotations around it. Like, hey, you just gotta get over it. You just gotta get past it. Like, don't let burnout beat you. And now this time around, and this is just my own experience and anecdote, but I feel like this time around people are talking about it in more a positive light. Like, hey, listen, burnout's real. So like just like don't feel super guilty about it. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just be aware of it and deal with it. Sometimes dealing with it is just getting right over it and getting to work. Sometimes getting over it is, hey, I really enjoy rock climbing or golf or something like that. I'm just going to go do that tonight or tomorrow. Or maybe I'm going to go, you know what? I've made a ton of money already this year. I'm going to plan a little golf trip with my bros and just enjoy it. Like,
Yeah, goals. I think it goes back to goals, your own
yeah,
personal goals.
exactly. Like so, back from burnout, for example, Mel, her name is has burnout in it. I
Yeah.
really like her channel, especially lately. I've always really liked it, but the kind of direction that she's taking recently is really awesome. She's just talking about she's always talked about personal things, but especially the last few videos, she's like, this is me, and this is my financial plan, and these are my weaknesses, and these are my strengths, and I'm gonna try to build up these weaknesses and try to focus on my strengths and do things better. But yeah, this is me, and I've really been enjoying her content lately. Shout out to Mel back from Burnout if you guys don't
Yeah,
follow her.
Mel's very cool. I got to meet her in Charlotte, North Carolina for a moment, and people were all over her. She's very
Yeah.
approachable, very nice. And then I got to also have to um, be with her on Cat the Nurse Flipper's channel
Oh, that's
on
right.
her Tuesday stuffs, and that was cool. And she talked about what she was doing and how she got away from YouTube. And she's when you have these moments, even like when you burn out, which I'm going to segue into, when you have these burnouts, you should think about why you're burnt out. What is
Hmm.
it? Why you're not excited anymore to get back into what you're doing, back to your goal, which may end up being a new goal that you build for yourself. Because goals are never ending. And I think when Mel, like many people, found like this time that they were not creating content, they started thinking about, what do I want to do? Do I still want to create content? And then they're like, I do. And then when this idea pops in their head, they're like, you know what? This is what I always wanted to work on, or this is something new that I want to work on. Now I'm excited again. And that's what I want to do. So it's always evolving. We're always evolving, but it's learning how to cope and capture yourself. With me, personal stuff, when I have burnouts and prioritizing on stuff, it's more of like my PTSD, my anxiety, that all these other things are like preventing me from doing it. But until I'm able to like understand one little thing and chip away at stuff, then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm back to where I need to be. It's not as easy as people think. I believe, because if I know if I'm going through this, and from time to time, I can't be the only one. Unfortunately, I wish that was the case, that I would be the only one going through stuff, but it's not. Other people are going through things, and it's not as simple sometimes for, oh, I'm burnt out, I can't do this. Because some people may not want to share what they're going through or
Yeah.
don't know how to express themselves to get over this slump or wall that they need to break through in their own way, whether they figure it out on their own or go to therapy or talk to somebody that sparks like that answer that they needed to find out to help them get through it.
Yeah. You're made for this kind of stuff, man. You're a good guy. um, so when we talk about things like this and we make statements, this is how my logical brain works every time, right? So I just said you shouldn't feel guilty about having burnout, right? And I believe that. I really do. But when I hear myself say that, my mind immediately goes to the psychology of humans. And really, the average person is, I'm sure there's like a theory about this, but this is kind of my own theory that I think about in my head, like pendulum swingers, you know? So everyone thinks it's 0 or it's 100. Even though there's 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way to 99, everyone's just like, okay, sweet. Fast sell through rate. I'm only focusing on fast sell through rate, and I'm sacrificing everything else just for that. Or oh, I'm a volume store, so I'm sacrificing everything else, and I'm just focusing on volume. It's like no, like ton of different stuff in there, right? So when I say it's okay to feel guilty when you have burnout, I immediately think, okay, people are going to run with this and then think, oh, if I feel burnout, I shouldn't feel guilty about it. And I should just do whatever I want. I should just go golfing every time I feel burnout, or I should call my mom every time I feel burnout, or I should not list every time I feel burnout. And that is also not correct. And I'm very against that as well. So, how do you understand, hey, I'm not going to feel guilty about being burnt out, but I'm also not going to let it just give me an excuse to be like, oh, I'm not working today or this week or this month, or I'm going to just give it a minimal effort all year long.
I This is something my uncle told me as a kid. Well, he was telling this to his son who was doing drugs, and I happened to be there. And he tells his son, my cousin, do what you can afford to do as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. Because the guy had his girlfriend who was either pregnant at the time or already had the child, and that always stuck with me. Of if I don't do this today or tomorrow, and the bills are coming up like they always do with adults, whether it's just a cell phone or something, do you want to be stuck at home living with your parents? You know, if it's not working out, because if I could, I would be living with my parents. That'd be freaking awesome. Although they're divorced, it didn't work out for them. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to work out for me being with them. And I love both of them, but
Yeah.
I think there's just something better than just sitting back too long and not sacrificing things that hurts you even more, as long as your breaks are working out for you to still again move forward is the best way I could say it.
No, I really like that. And I agree with that. Because I don't know, man. I'm just I'm just always so caught up in the fact that like people come here to YouTube to learn. People come to our podcast for a multiple for a few different reasons. Have some background noise, have some people to hang out with. But really, if you're listening to a podcast like this, you're here to like look for nuggets and make some fixes and maybe think of something that you haven't thought about, right? And what the average person comes to YouTube for is a magic pill or a hack or a bolo or something that they didn't know about that can like just change everything today. And that's what they come to YouTube for. And I just keep coming back to like if you want to be good at eBay, like you gotta understand some psychological things and improve yourself. And I don't know what it is, but because I have the logical answers. I have the steps that you need to do logically to make more money. But none of that stuff matters if you don't understand yourself and your
Mhm.
relationships And so it's like, should I feel guilty about burnout? I can honestly say for me, Jake Ryder, who understands himself, I'd say pretty well. I'm okay. I'm okay to not feel guilty about burnout and just be like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch.
Oh, we lost them, folks. Let's get them back in here.
There we go. I wonder how long that was.
I think it was just like a split second.
Okay, sweet. But yeah, so it's like I understand that like I can just go do something. I can stop working for 3 hours or even a whole day or even like a whole 3 or 4 days because I know I'll get right back into it. But someone who struggles with burnout every single day, or who has struggled with getting their listings up, or who has struggled with, you know what, I just love sourcing and that's all I want to do. And I feel burnout of listings. So I don't want to feel guilty that I'm just going to go to the thrift store. It's like, no, you should feel a little bit guilty about having been out and only wanting to go to the thrift store, you know? And so I don't know, I'm getting a little rambly here, but I think it's important to like not feel guilty about being burnt out, but also like be a big boy and girl and pay your cell phone bill and put a roof above your head and pay off your debts, and sometimes you just have to work through the burnout. And I don't know where that line is for every individual person. And so I always struggle with making blanket statements about it.
Yeah, there's gonna be times where people say catch you saying that right now.
Yeah.
Like you just need to get through
Clip
it.
it. Clip it,
And
chat.
some people are better to take that information rather than to some people are better at what you just said in this terms. You just need to suck it up and keep going.
Yep.
And people gravitate towards that. And then there's some people that are more like me who are a pat on the back. Hey, you're doing all right. You did look at how long you've come across since last month. Like keep doing it. You got this. Some people are like me that are more softer. Not to say that you're not, but there's two different types of things. And some people, there are the third type of person that don't need anybody to tell them anything. They got it for themselves. And sometimes those people don't understand these two other sides, right? And that's okay because that's what makes us individuals and unique as we are, to know that we're not all the same. Which if we were all the same, we would not be here because we would all be the same. It would be boring as hell.
Have you ever did you ever watch Fairly Odd Parents growing up?
Yeah, that used to be one of my favorite cartoons.
Yeah, there was this episode where they were all gray blobs named Joe. Hey Joe, what's up, Joe? How you doing, Joe? Oh, I'm Joe. You're Joe? Yeah, we're all Joe. And it was just super boring. We don't want that.
Now you just reminded me of Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
Oh, dude, that show.
All Ed, Eddie, pretty much all Eds, but
How old
they're
are you
all
again?
uniquely different in their own way. But yet you could understand each one because you take the time to know their different characteristics of their cartoonish characteristics.
What's our age gap again? How old are you? I'm 28.
Was that?
How old are you again?
I'm 23.
23. No, but I'm 28. Like
I'm 43.
What's our you're what, 43?
43.
43. So our age gap is 15. So yeah, we watched some of the same stuff, but you were probably 19 while I was 6. Because I mean,
well, when I was 19, I was already most likely in the army.
Yeah, good stuff. But yeah,
I was because I got
Ed,
in
and Eddie. I want to get back. I want to get back to a point that I wanted to make, but this is awesome. Ed, and Eddie, for example. If you guys haven't seen that show, let me explain it to you really quickly. It's 3 boys that every single episode they come up with a new way to make enough money to go buy Jawbreakers. The candy that you suck on. Every single episode they come up with and they even call it a scam or a scheme, where they just come up with a way to make enough quarters to go buy these Jawbreakers. And all 3 of them are completely different. All of us here on this island today, we're just Ed, and Eddie. We're all trying to just make money through reselling. And I have a really fast sell-through rate store, and someone else might have a volume store, and someone else might have a hybrid, and someone else might have just a completely different business model. But we're all just trying to make enough money to pay our bills and invest for the future and live a good life. And sometimes I think especially in my channel. My channel, J Ride Flips, is for beginners and intermediate people who want to become advanced eBay resellers. And so a lot of times I'm talking to people who have when I make videos, I'm not talking to people that are already making more than $80,000 a year on eBay. I'm talking to people well below that. And so when I say things like, hey, focus on fast sell through rate, that is the best advice for beginners, in my opinion. And it's not always the best advice for everyone, but and I still think it's the best advice for really everyone to just increase your sell through rate over time. But I don't know. Like we don't have to all do it the same, but there are just eternal principles within business that if you follow them, you're just going to have a better shot at success. But yeah, just Ed and Eddie, we're all just making money, and we don't have to all be the same. We don't all have to be
No,
Joes on
I
on
think you got to
burnout.
be proud of who you are and accept who you are, regardless of what people think about you, and not just think that people are thinking about you. There's some people that are out there, and I think it comes with age. Because for me, in the beginning, I was more of, this is what you do to find things that sell, and then as I've been doing this for years, I've transferred or transitioned over to, this is how I relate to things. And even if they sell for $50, which has been one of my last two of my previous videos of picking up this glass decanter Marquise by Waterford, that the community in the chat or comments told me that they go for like $50. And I know they
Mm-hmm.
go for money. And I didn't know the first time it was Waterford or Marquise by Waterford. I knew they go for money, but I wasn't interested in it. Like, I know what I have at home. I know I have similar things, and I'm trying to find stuff that's different. So people in the chat were saying I should have picked it up. So I went back again and I shared the second video. I pick it up, I put it in the cart, and I said, look, I'm putting it in my cart, but this isn't something that I am promising that I'm going to get, because I still have to look at it. I still have to evaluate it. I still have to judge it. And even if all the check blocks, which are J Ride may not do, he is all check box. If it all fits in, he is getting it and selling it. And for me, it's like being more particular about glass. If I see some scratches on there, I'm like, nah, I needed to be near perfect, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's the glass collectors out there isn't like picking up some glasses that are like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
there's a little scuff on the lens, or there's something that's noticeable, but these are really hot. They're expensive frames by Spy, and they're McCoy's, and they on average go for $60 to $80, which they do. This is not no BS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people are gonna be like, I love these, and they have the nice green UV glass lenses, which are rare. That gives it another $20 to $40 maybe value. Now you get $100 glasses and you sell it, but then it has a tiny little scuff. And then people are like, no, this is a scratch, right? People are particular about what they want. So for me, for that real fact or thing that happened, not a scenario or made up story, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get the decanter. I decided to put it back because of the scratch, just like somebody would return a scuff on glasses. So we all have our little particular things. Even if boxes check off, it still doesn't mean that I am going to be picking up that stuff. So I shared that in a video, and people were like, "You still didn't pick it up." And I was like, "There's a difference when people tell you you should have picked it up, and not to be mean, but who are they? Do they pick up this stuff, and are they resellers? Because it's easy to say to do something until you actually have it in your hand and invest in something. Now it belongs to you and your responsibility. So I'd rather set my eyes on something. Oh, I just packed it up over there. So during the same video, I find something that I was a lot more comfortable with that I've been doing for years before getting in the class, which was apparel. And I found a Stussy Marvel Punisher t-shirt that goes easily for $150 or more pre-owned for
Mm-hmm.
$4 compared to the decanter that sells for say $50 minimum at $15 that I would have had to pay for. I'd rather go with the $4 for 150 than the $15 for $50 because after fees and everything, it's a lot less. I'd rather bank off the bigger item.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all good stuff. You just got to do what's best for you and your business, and just keep grinding away. And then yeah, just to get back to a previous point that I made about just like actually understanding if you should feel guilty or not about being burnt out. Man, I'm getting so many calls. This is really frustrating. um, when so I said that you need to understand who you are in order to be able to know in each situation if you should feel guilty or if you should just push through or if you do need a break. And the problem is a lot of times we think that we know ourselves and we actually don't. Um, Growing up and being an adult is hard. A lot of us, I don't know how deep I want to get into this thought, but a lot of us don't realize, that maybe, and I'm not saying that this is me whatsoever, but a lot of us out there maybe didn't have a good relationship with our parents. And maybe our parents said some things that we don't even realize have stuck with us our whole life. Maybe you're a guy, and every time you started to cry, your dad said, "Be a man." And so now every time you get burnt out, you just hear it in your head, "Be a man and get it done." That is like a decent principle to live by, but when it's made from insecurity and fear, it's not a good one. And so then when you're saying to yourself, should I feel insecure? I mean, should I feel man, what was the word we were just using? Ashamed
Yeah.
about having burnout? Well, you shouldn't in that case because you actually don't know yourself. You have told yourself that you're completely fine with just bulldozing through, but it's actually born out of an insecurity that you never visited because you love your dad and because your dad is an amazing person in this example. But he did say a couple things that kind of messed you up a little bit psychologically. And you've never actually faced that or talked to yourself about it or talked with a therapist or your spouse about it. And so your whole life, maybe you did need to take a break. Maybe you did need to step away from something and come back to it later, but you're a man. Men don't cry, men don't give up.
Mm.
Same thing for so many, a thing that a lot of people struggle with too is they have an incredible mom. Their mom is amazing. They've done everything, and her mom have done everything to take care of them and provide a good life for them. But just like any other person, they have weaknesses too, and maybe every time that you accomplish something, maybe your mom says, "Good job, but." And so every time that you get to a milestone in your eBay business, or every time that you get to you find something and you learn something, you think in your back of your head, "Oh, that's cool, but," and that's why you're working. Instead of providing a life for yourself and your family, you don't even realize it because you've never addressed it, but you're just trying to make your mom proud. Even though she is proud of you, and even though she's an amazing woman in this scenario, she just always followed with "but," and you don't know yourself. You don't know that that's what you're chasing. It's
You-
tough.
I just watched the movie Tuesday, Inside Out 2, the animation. So I've watched both
Oh,
of
we're
them.
seeing that this weekend. We're pumped.
But what Jay Wright just mentioned, if you watch that movie, you're gonna capture some of what Jay said, because
Oh,
you
sweet.
have like this one person that all of these characters are trying to help out. There is the joy, there is sadness, there is new characters, and they're like, I think
Anxiety.
anxiety, and you
Yeah.
think like anxiety is just one thing, but it's funny how a cartoon that they made for most likely kids is more like for adults who are going to
Yeah.
understand this stuff. So although you're one person, you have these different personalities that you're working with, and you're always learning more about yourself, which is why I love that when I started reselling full time, it'll be 3 years in August, I believe. Um, Maybe longer now. But I've learned a lot more about myself having this free time of knowing if I want to get better at being a better person for myself, and not deal with anxiety as much or PTSD, right? I am now
Mm-hmm.
like, what do I do to not feel this way? I need to go to therapy. We talked about that before. Like,
Yeah.
okay, but in order to be home working full time, I still need to be reselling because that's what I want to do. I could do anything else, right? And I want to start getting back into photography and all these other things, which easily bring me an income. It's not like thousands, but I do get hundreds of dollars off of this stuff. And I'm like, I want to get back to this art side of me. And there's different types of us. There's no one thing that just because if I say I'm a reseller, YouTube content creator, doesn't mean I'm just on YouTube. It doesn't mean I'm just thrifting or reselling. I am making these different business or avenues coming in of income, which you talk about often and you don't always share what that is. But there's so much more to this. Like I've been saying for the longest time, we are more than just resellers. You are more than just who you are right now that people see you as, but it's up to you to be that person who you want to be and do all this amazing stuff without pointing fingers. And part of being a reseller, full-time reseller, is there's no boss or my wife or this person. Like you really have to figure it out on your own and just own the whole responsibility and be proud of yourself by doing good for you and those around you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I don't know, I really like it. So the whole point of JRag Flips, my channel, is to help people make more money online. And like I said earlier in the podcast, people are here to actually learn how to do eBay, to actually learn about the algorithm, or to actually learn about what items to sell. This is nuts, people. Please stop covering me. I gotta turn my phone off. Sorry, one second. But people come to YouTube, which is great. This is what you should be going to YouTube for, is to seek knowledge and understanding and new methods of being more productive, making more money. But again, it just, people come here because they want to know the BOLO, or they want to know the business policy, or they want to know the algorithmic hack, and all of that stuff helps, but it will not help if you have convinced yourself, and this pisses people off, and I understand it does, but if you have convinced yourself your area sucks and eBay is against you, you will not succeed on eBay. It doesn't matter if you have all of the information in the world. If your mindset is, my area sucks, you will never make money on eBay. You will never make enough money to actually invest it. You will probably make enough money to keep going. But if you have the mindset of, I'm coming here for nuggets instead of trying to understand who you are and become a better, more knowledgeable, more skilled, more understandable person of who you actually are, you'll never make the money you want to, because you're looking for the magic pills instead of looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I don't know how to find the items in my area. Instead, it's, my area sucks.
Yeah, I was lucky. Like, I, I would say when I started, it was pure luck because I
Yeah.
didn't know about, again, sell through rates. I didn't know that you could create your shipping labels on eBay. I was literally
Mhm.
writing down addresses. I mentioned this before, but there's a
Yeah,
lot of
that's
new
awesome.
people on
I
here,
love
so
that.
sometimes you got to repeat yourself. I was literally writing down the addresses to these orders, waiting in line, and then for sometimes like hours at the post office, and then I would go home and I would type in the tracking number, right? Like everything was manual for me until I just had the courage to ask somebody in line one day that I kept seeing this lady. Every time I was there, she was dropping stuff off. And I'm like, hey, let me just ask her. And I finally asked her and I was like, how do you get the labels? And she was like, I've noticed you here too. And I've been wanting to ask you, like, why are you not putting it on the counter or inside the dump box? And I was like, well, I got to get the labels. And she was like, you could do that on eBay. Just go here and you'll see it there. And I'm like, like that's when like for me, this was beginning 2017, and a lot has changed since 2017. Just like the prices at thrift stores, things used to be like $1.49 for t-shirts. Now they're at a minimum $3.99 here in Las Vegas. Jeans are on average $9.99, regardless if it's missing a leg, zippers, back pockets that should be there,
Mhm.
and it has chocolate markings that aren't chocolate. Like I'm not gonna pay $9.99 for that or $24.99 just because it has Levi's on it. That's something that was out last year, and it's saturated. It's just full on overdone with those jeans. It's not rare. It's not special, but evolving for me in the prices has changed. Just like I have, if they're changing prices, I need to change my method of learning what to look for. And when it comes to searching for stuff, was really lucky. Like I was saying, until I started learning about comps. Like, what are comps? Oh, that's actually what it sells for. And I say this because it's funny, and a lot of people are like, that's so dumb. How did you not know? So, for the people thinking that, how did you know? You don't just know like that and say, I'm going to be a
Mhm.
reseller. Boom, now you know this information. You don't know until you know. But for those who don't know, I always tell them, just ask. Like, don't wait, just wait for the question, right? Or you might have to now because of content creator, you might have like you ask a question and somebody's going to see your question and say, obviously, you didn't listen to the whole video.
Yeah.
Maybe you were listening, but you didn't catch it. And I think that's just people being people, like they could give an answer. There'll always be those type of people, but there will be somebody that comes along and say, hey, go look at the time 45:21, to assist the channel and also give them their answer, which still involves having the patience to take the time to be like, okay, I'm asking for it. Now here's the answer to go here. I need to follow through and get it. That
Yeah.
patience. But a lot of people don't have patience. Some people just give me, Jay, right? I want the answer. And it's like, there's no magic pill because I could give you the answer, but there's still so much more to that answer that you need to understand.
No, you brought up a really interesting concept of being lucky. Um, and it's true. In business, you do have to be incredibly lucky. Now, I speak against what people normally think of as lucky all the time. You can build a ton of money, and it's all skill and no luck. It truly is. When you actually come down to it, is you actually have to
Mhm.
develop the skills and the knowledge and the relationships and all that stuff to be able to make a ton of money, right? But luck, you have to have luck, and let me explain why. When I first started getting into retail arbitrage, I was extremely lucky because the first Walmart that I went to, there was a Blu-ray disc, a Blu-ray video that sold for $28 very quickly. There was only $5. And it was the first time I ever looked. So I got extremely lucky and I found 3 copies for $5 that sell for 28. I went home, I sold them the day that I listed them, all 3 of them. Because I was so lucky to find those, now every time I go to Walmart, I check the Blu-ray. I check the Blu-ray section. But if I went to Walmart and 7 times in a row, I checked the Blu-ray section and I never found anything, the chances of me going an 8th time go down. And then the 9th time go down. And the 10th time. It just keeps going down until you don't look. And sometimes you just need to go one more time to find it. But if I wasn't incredibly lucky and immediately made money the first time I did it, I probably wouldn't check for Blu-rays at Walmart. The same thing happened early on in my eBay career. I never looked for remotes. And then one day I just got extremely lucky, and like the second remote I looked up was worth $60. And because of that luck, now I look up all the remotes. And it took that initial luck for me to finally do it. Now, maybe I would have found that information on Google or YouTube later, but because I was lucky and had that first initial experience, I started to look for them. Then I got lucky with sunglasses. Then I got lucky with makeup. Then I got lucky with all these things. And so your skill can override that luck and you can eventually just get there. But man, if your first or second experience with something is super positive, that's very lucky. And now you are just going to keep doing it. Because now when I go to Blu-ray, when I search for Blu-rays, I find like 1 or 2 profitable Blu-rays every 5 or 6 times I go. But if it took me 6 times to find the first one, I may have never gotten to 6. So I needed that luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the luck for me changed to experience. So in the beginning, it was luck because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what I was looking for, and I happened to find a T-shirt or a jacket. I
Yep.
never forget this. I always told my wife she's my lucky charm. I told her that exact thing. Go with me to Goodwill because the last time you were there, I found $100 item. That's when I first started, and that was huge. And then the second time, I'm like, again, come with me because you're my lucky charm. It took like 2 weeks. So she was like, yeah, 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 whatever. She walks into Goodwill, the same Goodwill that we're going to because it's the only one that I knew about. And she just reaches her hand as she's looking at me and grabs his jacket. And she's like, yeah, make $100 off of that. And I'm looking at the jacket like, oh my god, like I don't know what that is, but that looks like it's worth 700 or $1,000. And it was
Mm-hmm.
a John Paul Gaultier jacket. It was a very rare one. It was like a juicy limited edition, and that's the one that they have the colognes. John Paul Gaultier. It's like a little women's body, um,
Yep.
but it was a jacket form, satin, gold black with skulls on it, and it was the only one out there. I got an offer within 2 days, so I paid $7 for it. I got an offer within 2 days for $650. And I was like, man,
That's
like I'm
awesome.
telling you, that's luck, right? But I did, and luck is because I didn't know what it was. It just the appearance. Now my luck is lucky that I see it, but it's more of the experience because I see, say, a swung vintage L.E. Smith or Viking vase, and I'm like, everybody's around it, and nobody's there touching it or going for it, and I just walk straight to it, and I freaking pick it up. This isn't it, not at all, but I pick it up, and to me, that is luck now because I'm more experienced of knowing what I'm looking for, and I was lucky because nobody else was going for it,
Yep.
but I knew what it was now. So now the luck has changed again from lucky to experienced.
Yep, 100%. And that's the logical application of luck. Because again, I don't want people to pendulum swing and be like, okay, sweet, business is just complete luck. No, you have to go out and create your own luck. So if you just heard, oh, Jayride said that there's $5 Blu-rays at Walmart that sell for $28. If you never go to the Blu-rays, you're never going to get lucky. Okay, so you have to actually go to the Blu-rays. And then if you don't find them in the first two attempts, you have to create your own luck and go a third and a fourth and a fifth. But what people do is they just go one time and they're like, oh, my area sucks. Or they even go 11 times, but it's at the worst possible time during the day. They did no research on when things restock. They talked to no managers about when things go on sale. They didn't really do anything to increase their probability of being lucky. So yeah, you're not going to be lucky. But if you want to find gold, the chances of you walking around in your town and looking down and finding gold at your feet, 0.000000001%. But if you go to a river in California and you start looking and panning, your chances go up. And then if you buy excavation equipment, your chances go up. And if you watch YouTube videos about how to pan for gold, your chances go up. You have to create your own luck, but you also have to be lucky to succeed. But if you don't create it, you'll never get it.
Yeah, looking for stuff, DVDs. It was one recently, probably a couple of months ago. So I was given some Blu-rays. I have no idea where I didn't pay for them. I know they're given to me. So I was looking them up, and one of them was like, I think worth $20, at least two or three of them. I have them in my storage unit. I'm probably gonna donate them or something, which although they're worth money, but I'm like, I just don't want to list Blu-rays, right?
Yep.
But I started getting into this thing of, okay, if these are $20, what are more valuable Blu-rays? And I think one is like a special 28 days later, a Blu-ray. And so I started getting into like, okay, if I'm going to go to Goodwill and my focus is looking at Blu-rays, I should be educating myself before I get there. If I have that time, or if you're just like, no, I could only have time to go now, and I learn on the spot. I think a lot of people miss that chance for themselves of learning a little bit of things to look out for and
Yeah.
then go and research or look there firsthand. And I think that was like my old self of one thing I'd always do. I would see something like on Glenn Hustler Hacks. He was like, you got to find these things at Ross. And they just sold these like unlimited Nike backpacks. I forget what they wore. Dude, I shot straight out the door and I went to every Ross that I could think of here in Vegas, and I didn't find one. And it wasn't until later on where I started realizing a lot of content creators is not the same day. It's like a week ago. So you're missing out on that gap, right? So how do you be informed with people firsthand? You go to these groups and you learn about it and you ask questions and you build yourself up to where it's not just you doing something, for your own business. Like you create a support group, a community type of system that helps you out, or you go to Facebook groups and you learn. And again,
Yeah.
I when I was in school, I hated learning because it wasn't learning that benefited me for what I wanted to be as an artist. I wish I would have had asked questions. How do you become an artist? So what do I need to do to get there to be, famous or sell stuff? People just kept telling me, oh, you'll be famous one day. So I always thought this magic check would land on my lap and say, hey, you're famous now. That's not the way it goes. That was like just my immature side. But now that I'm older, I'm like, man, I wish I had asked these questions, or I wish somebody would have guided me. So role models are very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good to help you on that. If some people don't believe in them and they don't need them, good for you. But there are some people that it would help out a lot to say, hey, can I ask you, Jay Ride, about these questions? You know, whether Jay has time of it or not. I'm not throwing them out there like that, just an
Hmm.
example. But there are people out there that are like, yeah, I could be a role model, but I also come at a price. And a lot of people claim that prices are good because they're getting something out of it. And if it doesn't work, you could always go to somebody else. There's no just a plan A and not plan B or C.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that meme where a city is flooded and someone's on top of their roof and they pray to God and they say, God, please save me? And then someone floats by in a boat and they says, hey, get in. And they say, oh, no worries. I'm waiting for God to save me. And so then they're like, okay. And they float off. And then a helicopter comes in and says, hey, man, we're here to save you. Come climb on up. And they're like, oh, no, wait, don't. No, I'm waiting for God to save me. And they're like, okay. So they fly off. And then the guy drowns and dies. And he goes to heaven and he says, God, like I was waiting for you to save me. Why didn't you come? And he says, dude, I sent a boat. I sent a helicopter. I even sent a really thick tree that you could have just held on to and floated to somewhere. Like I gave you so many chances and you just
Yeah.
decided not to save yourself. That was me saving you. And a lot of
Yeah.
people like view that too with luck, where it's like, yeah, man, I've tried. Like I've tried like three. Like I've tried everything on eBay, and it's just not working for me. And it's like, no, man, you've had like 7 different opportunities, but you wanted to only sell CDs, and
Yeah.
everyone's trying to tell you there's so many other things that you can do. Or you decided, you know what, I'm only a T-shirt reseller. Yeah, you're going out of business because we sent you everything else, but you decided I don't want that. Like sometimes it just takes understanding, you know what? I don't have the skills to only sell t-shirts on eBay. Some people have the skills to
Mhm.
only sell t-shirts on eBay and it's more profitable for them than selling in multiple categories or every category. But that takes a different skill set and you have to look at yourself and be like, yeah, right now I don't have the skill set to only be a t-shirt reseller. I don't know how to get hundreds of t-shirts at a reasonable price to resell them, and I'm just going to blame my thrift store and then I'm going to go out of business. And it's like, no, man, there's so many more opportunities. You
I think
just
you had
focus
that
on
on
one.
Facebook, right? A photo of your, and you said, "What do you?" It's something about what do you think about a everything reseller? I think
Yeah.
that's what you had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't follow up with the questions, but I was seeing it earlier. I seen it when you first posted. I was seeing it then. I was going to do it, but I was at an appointment this morning. This morning, they're like, "You got to get off your phone." But that
Yeah.
reminded me of it. And I'm an everything reseller, but when I focus on like glass, I want to stay stuck on glass. But I look at everything. I just
Yeah.
know that I'm better off with apparel, and I could look at that last, where I'm not as comfortable with glass. Well, I'm a little bit more comfortable with it. It's not that hard. It's just looking for makers marks and reaching out
Yep.
to people. Like I've been saying, have a group, reach out to people, send photo who are more experienced, and if they don't know, they know somebody who does. So communication is one of the big ones that has helped me get through a lot of things that I would have probably been like my $500 swung vase or swung vase. I'm like, man, this is probably like $150, and my friend is like, I'll buy it for 150, but it's worth 500. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh shit, like you're right. So, um,
I'm I'm gonna make a dedicated video about this, but the secret to succeeding on eBay is you can do it in so many different ways, but we do it forwards when I would suggest doing it backward. So the secret to making a ton of money is you can do it with a high sell-through rate store. You can do it with a volume store. You can do it with a hybrid store. You can do it with a niche store. You can do it with an everything store. You can do it with a hobby store. All you have to do is work backwards. The first thing is you have to say, how much money is worth it? How much money do I have to make per week, per month, per year, per quarter, whatever it is? Find out what is actually successful to you in your mind. Maybe it's $40,000 a year. Maybe it's $100,000 a year. Maybe it's $1 million a year. Wherever you set that parameter, then just work backwards from there. Then understand your own skill set and either improve it or double down on what you're good at. So, like I said, there are some guys and gals out there who have the skill set to only sell t-shirts and make $250,000 a year only selling t-shirts. Part of that skill set is knowing how to get t-shirts from outside of your area into your hands. Okay. If you're only dependent on thrift stores, you're not going to be able to do that. Maybe there is like one city out there that has enough that you could do that on just your thrift stores. But if you want to make $250,000 a year selling only t-shirts, you're going to have to sell t-shirts and other things, or you're going to have to be able to make connections with people that have a supply that can send it to you for cheap enough to where you can make a profit. Or you need to get really good at sniping on eBay or Amazon, or you need to learn how to do wholesale and liquidation. And there's just so many more skills that you have to learn to do that. If you want to make $100,000 a year with a volume store, you can do that. You can easily do that. But you just have to understand the skill set required in that. So I preach all the time, sell-through rate is the best way to make money on eBay, especially for beginners, and I stand by that. But what people hear is, J-Ride doesn't think that I can make money with a volume store, and that's incorrect. You can make money with a volume store, you can make money with an everything store, you can make money with a niche store. But if you just decide I'm going to make $100,000 and I don't care how I get there, the best way to do that is fast sell-through rate items. But if for some reason you feel like you can't do that in your area, or it's your personality that you really want to sell Black Sabbath CDs and that makes you really happy, and you want to do it through only CDs, or you want to get all of your items for 3 cents or less and you want to do that business model, that's great too. But you just have to understand your skill set and how much money you actually want to make. And yeah, you can make $100,000 a year with every single eBay business model. It just, the factors are how fast are you going to get there, how easy it is, how hard it is, how much burnout you're going to experience because of the different ways you're using it. But yeah, the secret is that you can make $100,000 on eBay through any business model that are popular on YouTube. At least I think so.
I believe you could make as much as you want. It's just like you said, what is it going to cost you? You know,
Yeah.
how much time are you going to invest in that? Are you really serious about it? It's easy to want something, but when you work towards it, a lot of people will, oh, it's too hard. It's not.
Yeah.
You just haven't gone through the obstacles to let you understand more about your business for it to become easier. Like just all resellers, it started in the beginning, right? After getting over being lucky, because you end up not being lucky at moments, and then you start like, I really need to learn more. And then as you progress in time, which these years that I've been reselling has felt like months. It's been like a really good journey and come like smooth. Like I can't believe how fast it's going by, and that just says a lot of what people say back to the, it's not a job. It is, but it's not. But it's also
Yeah.
fun for me, and the things that I've been able to do within uh, being a content reseller creator. It's like has opened more doors and opportunities of people seeing me and saying, "Hey, I have some business for you that cost you nothing." Other than you coming over and checking it out and picking out some things, and being a good person, obviously.
Yep. Yeah, guys. I don't know. I think we didn't even really talk a ton about work-life balance. It kind of went in a different direction, but
No, I
I
think
don't know.
it talked a lot about work-life balance
Yeah.
of what we of our stories that are true and some of the stuff that
Yeah.
was talked about. I think it's a good touch on all of it that people will see for themselves.
Yeah. I don't like to plug myself because I think it's tacky, but I think this is really relevant. I have a live called like selling on eBay 3 pillars for success or something like that. If you guys type in J-Ride Flips 3 pillars, I think it should come up. If you guys are struggling on eBay, or if you guys have kind of hit like a sticky point, or if you're starting to regress on eBay, I say this with as much love as I can. It's you. You're the reason for all of your success, and you're the reason for all of your failures. I definitely recommend watching that video, watching that live. I talk about how to run the best eBay business possible, and for 35 minutes, all I talk about is how to become the best version of yourself and build the best eBay store for you. And I definitely recommend you guys checking out that video and applying some of those principles. It doesn't talk about items. I mean, it does a little bit towards the end, but it doesn't talk about algorithmic hacks. It literally talks about understanding who you are and understanding the people around you. And And I promise that if you, I don't know, I wish there was a mathematical equation, but I can tell you if you become a better person, you will make hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of more dollars across your lifetime. If you just sit down and say, I'm actually a prideful person, and it's the difference of an extra $80,000 a year compounding on itself. And if I can just understand that the way that I'm running my business is for my pride and not for my pocket, then I will start to progress. And I think that video can help you guys. But I don't know. Again, once again, I don't think that success on eBay and reselling comes down to the actual business steps. I think it really comes down to leveling yourself up as a human.
I agree.
Got anything else to say, Sonny? Well, we really appreciate you guys coming out here and chilling on the island with us. If you guys have any comments, put them below. Follow us on Facebook, join our Discord, do all the cool stuff. We're really just here to be the best members of the community we can. We don't really care about the growth and the monetization stuff. We really just want to be a place that you guys can come hang out. So if you want to hang out on YouTube or Facebook or Discord, whatever it is, we appreciate you guys being here.